Welcome to this podcast. This is VFitter University. We are the world's first practical university that is using AI as simulators to bridge the gap between knowledge and wisdom. That simply means doing simulations, as AI is really built for simulations. And right now, for example, they're using it for chatbots and automation, but the main point of having AI is to predict. And right now, because of how easy it got, we could really just test every knowledge we have on this earth and build a virtual bridge that could get us an understanding of what wisdom would look like based on that knowledge. So we don't have to, for example, build the whole bridge to know what works. We could use mathematics, we could use physics, we could use chemistry. For example, right now, there are biohubs by Mark Zuckerberg and I think his wife that they are basically using AI to do hundreds of lab experiments, while before they could do only one per year, right? Right now, they could do 100 in a day. And it's really helping science in that way. And we are willing to partner with professionals and make those simulations and make wisdom, basically, and teach it to the workforce. So I'm here with Jim Cantrell, and I'm very excited to have him in this podcast because I have a lot of questions about science and stuff. So thank you for being here, Jim, with me.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Can you please go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we could start from there.
Sure. So Jim Cantrell, I am an engineer by trade, and I think of myself as a builder, maker, and doer more specifically. And I've been in the space business 35 years, also in the automotive business as well. And it's been an interesting ride. I started my career at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. They're the ones that build spaceships, basically, to go out to the outer reaches of the planets and in some cases further. So then I ended up having a job offer from the French Space Agency in Toulouse, France in 1989. And I went over there for about 3 years, worked on a joint Soviet-French mission to Mars. And that was back when the Soviet Union was what we today call Russia. And it was a very interesting time to be there. It was just as the Soviet Union was ending. And in fact, the Soviet Union ended on my watch on that program. And so I came home in 92 back to the U.S. And I was recruited then by a number of U.S. government agencies to go back into Russia to help stop what they call brain drain, which was the Iranians and North Koreans primarily trying to hire Soviet weapon scientists and missile engineers to help them with their programs. This was at a time, for those that don't understand communism, all the wages were paid by the state. And when there was a revolution in 1991, the wages stopped being paid. And so people had to feed their families, and this is what they were doing. So we went in with U.S. government money to try and keep these guys employed, the key ones. So I ended up flying satellites out of submarines and out of Russian launch complex in Kazakhstan, and we converted ICBMs to space launchers. And it was a very interesting time in my life. And that led to Elon Musk calling me out of the blue in 2001 after I was done with those tasks. And he was basically looking to mission to Mars with his own money. And originally was mice that he wanted to send to Mars. We talked him into a plant growth chamber on the surface. And we tried to buy rockets from the Russians, which is why he called me. And when that didn't work out, we started SpaceX. So it was sort of the attitude of, hey, if the Russians won't sell it, won't do this for us, then let's go build it ourselves. So I was with SpaceX for a few years, and then started my own company called Strategic Space. Got involved in a lot of space warfare activities. But then around 2011, started coming around and to things that the government used to do, like spy satellites with commercial money, with investment dollars. And I helped start Skybox Imaging and another couple of companies who builds radar satellites in Finland, Q, Space System, and then finally Space. And so Phantom, we're trying to solve the launch problem, which still exists despite SpaceX being good at launching. There's still more demand than there is launchers. So we're building small reusable launchers, even more cost effective, and also build the our own satellites on top of that. So that's what I do today.
Oh wow, this is such a man, you have such a history. And I please ask, like, I don't want to turn this into a debate, but how do you think, how practical is colonizing Mars in general? Is that
Yeah,
even possible?
it presents challenges.
Yeah.
Challenge is just getting there. That's the first problem you have to solve. And when you watch the thing we call Starship launch, that's what it's really all about is Mars. And you have to have very, very large vehicles because the energy to get there is large. You have to slow down once you get there. So you put all this energy into it, and when you get there, you have to take it out of it and then land on Mars safely. So
Mm.
getting to the surface is traditionally a challenge for robotic vehicles, going to be more so with people. But once you're there, some of the other challenges start. If you watched the movie The Martian, very, very good
Yes.
movie. I think very
Mm.
realistic, based on Andy Weir's book. And they have a lot of challenges. You have to make oxygen out of the atmosphere. You're going to have to make water from subsurface
Mm.
ice. You're not going to be able to bring everything with you. You're going to have to live off the land, as they say. And when you look at Elon Musk's enterprises, I view it as something that really comes down to going to Mars. I think everything that he does is really focused on how am I going to get to Mars? And part of that, if you look at the Boring Company, for example, well, we're going to bore, cities so we can drive our cars. Probably not true. It's probably more focused on where you're going to live on Mars. You're going to live underneath the ground in tunnels because it's
Mm.
the most practical way to live on Mars. They
Oh
will
wow.
pressurize. They will be radiation tolerant, so you can not build all these building materials with you. So I think that's all about. So I think it'll happen. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of money. But I think Elon Musk and SpaceX will probably be the ones to do it.
Oh wow, this is interesting. So, just out of curiosity, just like, is it for SpaceX to land somewhere right now, or that haven't been made yet? Because there's a lot of controversy that it's like CGI, the bit of the like actual they posted, but just out of
Yeah.
curiosity. Mm.
Well, I've seen their boosters land. That wasn't CGI, when I was
Mm.
standing there. So I've seen their boosters land at Cape Canaveral. So yeah, no, that's all. They're working on a lunar lander that will happen in the next 5 years.
Oh wow.
Would be my guess. Yeah.
Mm, mm,
So a
mm,
lot of conspiracy theories out there. And for example, did we ever land on the moon? Well, I know personally, I've known 5 of the men who walked on the moon. So I don't think it's a scandal. And I watched it on TV when I was a child live as it was happening. So I
yeah,
don't I don't believe.
it's interesting. There are like, in one of those clips, there are like bubbles, and they said maybe this whole thing was recorded underwater. But that could be like anything else, apparently, like it bubble. But then there's like footages that I don't want to miss into a flat earth debate. Imagine,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of evidence from flat earthers that it's super convincing, point that it's like media now, like one of the most brought up topics on YouTube right now. So you can definitely meet the answer, and I would be like, Jim said that, I'm gonna believe in that. So if you have ever seen any of those evidence, like, what do you think?
Yeah. No, I've seen the rockets land for
Mhm.
for real, right?
Mhm.
So, and who took pictures of the Apollo 13 or the Apollo 11 site there on the moon.
Yeah.
It's still there. You can. There's been images taken of that stuff. So this is bunk.
Perfect. That's very interesting, man. So, in terms of back to AI simulations, what kind of things do you think that you and, like, in quantum space, any of your other companies, we could together to make wisdom out of the existing databases that we have? Because right now we're doing it in like a business area. It kind of like helps companies making use of their data because of like data analytics, and kind of like a fractional to them that is also teaching their future workforce. And this is like, I don't believe universities in the world are practical enough. They're very outdated, and it's hard to them to really catch up. I'm not talking about the good ones though, like the awesome ones, fair, but like personally, I paid £60,000 like a to study visual effects. And when I was there, I criticized the entire school because like everything was very in such a new and updated industry that it's just really like a software update you need to do, and like it was very hard for them to catch up. So I'm thinking like generally how practical think universities are, and because like us as a university, we offer university as a department to a company and then train their future workforce after the well-rounded education, let's say, and we offer certificates and stuff. So yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, how practical are universities? I mean, universities really up to be practical. They're set up, if you really want to think of them as a pure entity, they're set up to convey knowledge
True.
and to begin that path, that lifelong journey. Use the word wisdom. I don't disagree, but you're getting tools to do things with their life, and it's there that things become creative. I don't ever universities to create practical kinds of skills with people that they will happen through doing, but it's not something that how to do. So with that said, there is research that gets done at universities that become game changing, and so that's a different side of the university too. The research that so in terms of realistic, it's kind of a hard question to answer, right? Because it certainly doesn't, to use your term for AI simulation, doesn't simulate real life. There's a certain creativity that happens. There's a certain sort of almost magic that at least where I sit today, I can't see AI or anything else really comparing to. It comes from the human experience of experiencing things, something magic in the way we think and in the way we process data along with what's coded into our DNA. And we've survived, these thousands of years through a DNA modification process that Darwin coined Darwinism. And so instinct, right? And instinct isn't something that's taught. It's something that's inherent in all of us. And so AI as it exists today, as I understand it, I'm no expert, is a lot of it is database referenced, this huge amount of data and making sense of it. Okay.
True.
When it becomes sentient, that'll be sort of another major different phase of it.
Yes.
And, I self-coding. So, we deal with Phantom. We have self-coding algorithms that you program in a control algorithm and the computer codes it. So in theory, you could have something in AI that's based on that self-coding capability that says, okay, here's what we get from the data, the conclusions we get from the data. And maybe sentient side of this is when we can somehow simulate the human DNA lessons from hundreds of thousands of years, that instinct. So I think we're a ways away from that, but it's an interesting thought. It's a scary thought for some.
Yes.
But computers still exist in physical realms, and you can always flood the basement.
That's facts. But if you really think about it, like the experience part said from every human being has been translated to some form of data, right? Or words or numbers. And that experience is now available to AI to be used practically. And this is the key missing point. Because like you might say human experience over AI, but think about this. If the human documented their experience, or like I'm sure that did, but maybe not on university, maybe on like personal courses or whatever, AGI would be so smart that would give us pure wisdom. But like that is when you ask for it. That is only when you do the right simulations, gather the right databases, and do the so for example, in our website, we basically have a builder that you would give the simulator, and then it would build the goals, rules, examples, and variables for it. So you could choose variables every time. So personally, I was curious about like space travel and stuff. And I did like a mission to Earth-like planets so we could live in. And the closest we do by 2056 is possible only if we built like a spaceship that reached 20% of the speed of light. And this is like fascinating to me. It's like, oh wow, so until then we can't really do this. So how practical is that? And personally, like I was by just giving you a little bit of my religious background. So I was Muslim before, became atheist, kind of like atheist. I would be like convince people out of religion. But then from software design, I really appreciated people who make law. Like in general, it's time consuming to apply conditions, and really like all these prophets in the world, they created a long list of laws and rules that are super practical for human being, right? So it's like I'm thinking as a human nature, you're by your biology, and you have to learn it the best. So Bible is my way, like after reading all this books, and I have enough to prove that we need a practical example of a role model as a human to follow. It had to be timeless, has to be sinless, has to have like certain qualities. We do those qualities in, like, for example, factories. Makes sense if you have a blueprint that you want to copy like 200 from, right? I believe that example is very needed. We cannot communicate to that one Allah, God, that is outer world, because it's the pure knowledge and wisdom. It's not translated to us. We only translate it through this example, which is our Jesus Christ, and a sacrificing example. So it's the best example. Does that
That's
make sense?
interesting. So I was raised Lutheran, and then I became atheist. I was never, as you say, a preaching atheist, but maybe agnostic, right? And I had a death experience about 2 years ago. I was in a coma, and I came out of that a Christian again. I
Oh
saw what I
wow.
saw. At least I believe my mind saw what it saw. But I thought about this, and since then, because I'm a science guy, I'm an engineering guy, so I have to think about how this my mind can't tolerate not thinking about it. And if you go back to Einstein's principle of matter and energy being equivalent, right? That's how nuclear energy is created. It's destroying mass, which creates the energy, or converting it more appropriately. If you think about then who we are as humans, or any animal, it doesn't matter. And there's a certain sort of that's had to happen for not only our bodies to exist, but think of our consciousness. What is our consciousness? What are our thoughts? This is a high degree of organization
Exactly.
that's happening in the midst of a very disorganized environment. And so we also know that organization requires energy to exist, or to come about, and that over time that degrades, as they lost. But energy can never be really truly destroyed, is the other thing we understand about physics. And so that's our spirit represents some form of energy. And where does that energy go? We know what happens to our body. It decays and eventually turns back to dust. But where does that spirit go? Where does it come from? Right. And this is the eternal mystery for me. But you make a great point about, I have friends who are Jewish, for example, and they have, 2 dishwashers. You think when those rules were written, as you point out, those sort of are good sort of general clean rules, right?
Yes.
You don't eat this, and it's all got the same thing, and interesting you mentioned Christianity and a role model. One of the things I'm reading right now is about the Knights of Templar and the history there. And if you want to understand where the world has really clashed, it's on the Temple Mount over the centuries. And the Christians came in and got rid of the Muslims. Muslims would kill the Christians, and the Jews got trampled over, on and on and on, right? The only one they're missing are the Hindus and the Buddhists. But when you listen to all this, you start to realize that it was humans clashing, not necessarily the religions clashing. It was humans
Exactly.
clashing over
Yes.
power.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, the Christian ideal of turning the other. It occurred to me reading this book that one of the things that happened to the Roman Empire was they made so much progress in peace, relative peace. And if you've been in Europe, and you go to Roman ruins, they look serene, they look calm. You just get this sense that it was a very progressive, not in the modern political term, environment where things were happening and we were moving forward. Yet then you go look at relics from, say, the 900 AD in Europe and haphazardly put together. So the so-called Dark Ages happened when we were in the midst of war, and that's where the society's energies went to. So this idea of turning the other cheek and not constantly being at war is definitely better for human progress. And I think that's why, if you get some of the modern science fiction,
Mhm.
I love Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek guy, and
Nice.
the counter some of these warrior like
Mhm.
worlds, but advanced ones are peaceful, right? And because that's how you can't afford to put that energy into destroying things. This Ukraine
Mhm.
war drives me crazy watching it. I hate to see it. Part of loves it because I've got ulcer with the Russians and I like seeing them put it in their place. But the other part of me just hates
Mhm.
the war and the fact
I
that
see what I
we're
mean.
putting weapons in it. Yeah, and I hate the wars in the Middle
Mhm.
East. So many innocent people killed. It's just horrible. So anyhow, that
Exactly.
that's a long way to say I'm a peacenik.
Yes, that's fact. So I'm very interested in science in general, and I think like science goes two ways. It's expand way, like out space and outer universe, or inwards, like our atoms and like our body and all the biology and stuff. Um, like as you may know, because like life is very rare in this whole universe, and I'm thinking maybe we should only go to life, you know what I mean? So it's like maybe the science has to be inwards, and like only inwards, not necessarily
Mhm.
more practical to bring it inwards, unless it helps us, like for example, let's say we research like solar energy, it helps understand human reaction body to it. So it's like, okay, as long as it's practical, I love that science. But personally, like after reading Pike's and Dogmas of the Freemasons, it's really interesting that they actually divide in this world like with wisdom and knowledge, something but it's not like it might work in theory. Yes, it's written, but it doesn't test. And right now with AI, we could literally like have the result of and see how it would turn out. So maybe a lot of budget could be saved, a lot of energy could be saved, and I'm just curious to have more of these opportunities with you. But like for the sake of podcast, okay, so I think out of time. So if you have any final words for the audience, I would be happy to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, let me address AI's role in the future. So, I've played with AI, neural networks, 80s and early 90s when it was a new thing. I understand, that it starts bad and becomes something that's much more sophisticated over time. Look at the operating on. I used to build my own computers in graduate school, right?
Nice.
And program a lot of it. I couldn't program any of this stuff now. It's just gone way beyond it. AI is going to do that, and
Mm,
AI can be what we make of it. It can be evil or it can be good. It really depends on what we as
mm,
humans want it to be. And we humans, it's the wolves. There's two wolves that live within us, the evil wolf and the good wolf, and the one we feed. And that's the same with AI. Yeah, there's the
mm.
evil wolf and bad wolf, or the good wolf. And it's been very Sam Altman fight for his career life and be reinstated, to see how that the whole played out, because I think it's this basic fear of the
Mm.
unknown, of what this thing that's beyond our control really is. But if you're a person of faith, you
Mm.
end that really life is beyond your control anyhow.
This
So
is so right.
so
Yes.
I'm optimistic. I am
This is
optimistic about
perfect,
AI.
man. You said person. See how it comes to the like human, the actual flesh. I feel like we don't have to fix AI. We have to fix human because AI is just the tool. To me, there's
Right.
like evil is like you're either as a person you're a good person or you're mentally ill. Like if you're evil, your my opinion is like that person needs to be Hitler, not be a leader. At least put them put them in a very nice, cozy place like a mental hospital, but like a hotel design. How world would like that if we don't see evil as like evil, see them as mentally ill and like taking them hostage. put them in a mental. Man, I could talk about
Probably
any of
true.
these. Yes.
Yeah. Good
Because
comment. Yeah. Well,
thank you so much, man. It was the one of the most exciting podcasts I ever had. I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It's like not talking about rockets.
That's perfect. Yeah. So next episode, talk about any of these stuff. Like I was gonna talk borders and how like there are scams. So yeah.
Yeah. Send me this link, and then we'll do one. Give it some time and do another one.
Perfect. Yes, that's a
all right, Elijah.
Meeting. Yes, let's do it, man. Have a great day.
All right.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.